just getting some drinks.
Sure. So this is a wonderful day. Physical Immortality and Leonard's birthday, and we are starting in a moment. We see if anybody else joins us here. Other people will join on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I won't see the comments on Facebook unless one of you is checking those comments for me and telling me what it says.
Which page on Facebook?
Rebirth International Community
Okay, I will.
Group, if you can keep track of that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Aha, you like it. Okay, great.
Yes, I am connected with Facebook Live.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So we are on German time, so we will start with a little prayer that Rajendra will lead us through. And are you doing the one that we always did in India in your group?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I hope I remember the words. Okay.
Yes. It's a small prayer. It's a salutation to the Guru, to the Master. And it's not to any one particular Master, but it is all the Masters that appear on the planet Earth. It is addressed to all the Masters. It's in Sanskrit, Indian language. It's a very popular and common prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaram, Guru Sakshat Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sahavatu, Sahanau Bhunatu, Sahaviryam Sarvavahai, Tejasvinavadatu, Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Well, I first like to welcome everybody here who is joining us live as well on Facebook in the Rebirth International Community Group, as well as here in our live call. I will keep checking if there is more participants. We are pretty early in Germany, and all the people in America are still sleeping because they are 6 hours behind or 9 hours. And so that's why we, during this day, to celebrate Leonard's birthday, we are having 5 different live Zoom calls, and we have many guests today. And Jim Morningstar will give us an address to Leonard in this video. He recorded that before. And there will be Kira Longman, there will be Sandra Ray might give a greeting as well to Leonard's birthday. Tonight there will be Dan Brule, Jan Hooks. We play a video of him. He made great music, will be there. We are having Adriana in the Spanish session at 6 p.m. Irene will lead that. We have a German session at 1 p.m. It's all German time. And we have Mavi Carreras in that meeting as well. And Silke Modersohn and Armando is there as well, and Beatrice. And so we're having all these wonderful people. With Dan Brule, there will also be David and Pauline McNabb, and then in the afternoon also Aaron Overstreet. So there's lots of things that will be happening today. And well, Leonard is watching from above, and I think he will be very happy about us celebrating his birthday, because his main mission in life was to share the ideas of physical immortality with the world. It was his passion. He was way ahead of his time. He was a pioneer. He was a little bit about his life. He was born in 1937 in Walton, New York, where he had different times. He had a training center there, one time in the 1980s, I think, and then again we went there in the late 1930s. I asked everybody to put your loudspeaker silent if you can, so we don't have any background noise besides the speakers, of course. And so Leonard loved Walton, New York, but he always talked about his childhood and his troubled experience with his upbringing and his relationship with his mother, because he felt he was an unwanted child for already 3 children before. So his mother didn't want any children after the first 3, and he was the 6th child. Please turn your microphone off, everybody, so we don't have any background noise. And so he grew up feeling unwanted, and he was a very timid child. And he said later that there's still somebody with a loudspeaker on. Okay, I will. But he had an awakening or realization with Jesus, and he found Jesus in his life when he was only 17 years old. Friend inspired him, and then he became a born-again Christian, and he studied religion and philosophy. And but Jesus spoke to him to not be a minister for the church, but for the unchurched. And he always said he didn't know what that meant till he found rebirthing breathwork and his ministry to teach that all around the world. And he became very curious about physical immortality. And he went to India, and then actually he met Babaji. And tonight in the talk with Dan Brule, he will share with us about he was present with Babaji. I wasn't there at the time, but so he will share a lot about Babaji and his experiences with Leonard in India. And so Leonard met Babaji and felt that Babaji was the greatest being on this planet, and got very inspired, and he spent a lot of time with Babaji whenever it was possible for him. And so good morning, please turn your microphone off. I do it. Okay, so and then Leonard found what he called the practices of spiritual purification, and he actually learned them with Babaji, and we will talk more about that in detail later, also with my first guest, who is Rajendra Kulkarni, and we will explore how Leonard lived and practiced his idea of how he reached physical immortality. So it is known today that the idea of physical immortality is basically a possibility that we have in our physical body, and that we that our body can rejuvenate, and that we can grow new cells and new organs, and there is a lot of research also done on that. But that this, even yesterday I read in some of an Indian teaching that it's stored in the divine soul, that possibility of physical immortality, but that we get immersed in the material world, and that we have a challenge to maintain that it's aliveness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that his name, that the fountain of life spring that we have within us in our divine nature, and that is actually his name, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that we have that possibility inside of us, and we want to honor and cherish these ideas, because we become what we think about. And Leonard always signed his emails by saying energy becomes what it thinks about. And so it's very important that we think about ideas that we can that lead us to a healthy life. In our German talk, we have actually Lamia Hariri there, who is who works a lot with food and mood, and how the connection of our inner child is how we can either use food or in our benefit, or destroy ourselves with that. So Rajendra, when I say Rajendra, it is not Rajendra alone. It is always together with his saintly wife. I always say Sneha is a saint. And so Rajendra and Sneha are longtime friends from us in Pune, and they both together, they participate in every activity equally. So Sneha is always there where Rajendra is. So I've been with you so many times, and I love your community. So you have a spiritual community in India. You're meditating since 1994. And your Guruji told you to create a spiritual community. And you are also past life regressionists. So you are rebirthers since 2013 when you came to our training. And I would love you to talk more about that in a moment. You also translated a lot of Leonard's work into Maharaji, and what is Marathi, exactly the language, and you also published a few of Leonard's books. So we yes, I start with you, and I would love to hear from you how it went when you met Leonard for the first time. And I think you have to come a little bit forward to the microphone so we can hear you better.
Yeah. Namaste. I am Rajendra from India. I'm basically from Pune, which is near Mumbai. I came to know Leonard. I met Leonard first time in 2013 in a 9-day training in India, Chandigarh, which is near Delhi. And I joined along with my wife, and we both were undergoing the training. In one of the morning sessions, which Leonard used to lead, he talked about Shiva Purana. And he said, if you are more interested in knowing about Shiva Purana is an Indian scripture. And Leonard is very fond of that scripture. So he said, I have got some newsletters, printed newsletters were with him. And if you are interested in knowing more about, is it okay? Can everybody hear me or?
Yes, I just say the word Shiva Purana because that was one of Leonard's main Indian scriptures that he used to read every day. He had a copy in the bathtub with him all the time. The copies looked a little shabby after some time, but he was reading the Shiva Purana all day long I mean, for all these years that I knew him, that was always next to his bedside, and so when he met Indian friends, he always was so intrigued because they knew about the Shiva Purana. So yes, please go ahead, continue.
So he said, I have got, I have some newsletters which talk about Shiva Purana. And since it is an Indian scripture, I felt interesting. So I went to him. I said, yes, I'm interested in having a copy of those newsletters. And he said, after the session, you come to my room and you can collect it. I went to his room and he made me sit over there for some time and then search through his baggage, and he gave me 2 or 3 newsletters which talked about Shiva Purana. While I was sitting in his room, I felt something different. I have been to many gurus and sadhus and saints like people, and I felt similar kind of energy with Leonard. And that was my first conversation or first encounter, first one-on-one meeting with Leonard. So that's how I met Leonard.
Yeah, he had a very special energy. I mean, yes. For anybody who's sensitive to it, you could really experience the essence of his presence.
Yes, and during that training, on the last day, he informed us, all the trainees, that he'll be going to Bhima Shankar. It's a temple, well-known, ages-old temple of Shiva, and it is known as Jyotirlinga. That is a symbol of flame, of fire. That's the Jyotirlinga. And he was going there not to visit temple, but in search of immortals. I was a little surprised because I had been to Bhima Shankar, that Jyotirlinga, several times. But it's very near. It's only 2.5 hours drive from my place. And I never heard of any immortal over there. But since he was visiting with his group, he had 4 or 5 persons together Aaron was there, Heike was there, and two more people from US, and I think Australian, one gentleman, I don't remember his name. All were going to Bhima Shankar. And since it is near to my place, I gave my mobile number. I think I gave it to Heike. I told Leonard. Leonard said, give it to Heike. And I told him that if you need anything or you need any assistance, you can call me. I'm just a 2 hours drive from this Bhima Shankar. And I also told him that to the best of my knowledge, uh, there is no immortal over there. I have not heard of any immortal at that place. He said, that's okay. I will search. And so they went to Bhima Shankar. They were staying in a hotel. And one day I got a call from a hotel. Heike spoke with me saying that they need internet because Leonard always want to be in connection with his students, his people around the world. And there was no internet connection at Bhima Shankar. In the hotel, in fact, there was no connection at that place at all. And can you help something for this? I said, yes. I have a friend very near to this place. He has got a Wi-Fi, internet connection. You can come and we would like to offer you lunch also to Leonard, Heike, and all your people. You can come to my friend's place and we'll have lunch together. You can have internet connection. And that's how I met Leonard second time. With all, and I just informed my spiritual community members that there is a master coming. And if you are interested in meeting him, you can come with me. And almost 25, 28 people came with me all the way from Pune. And we met Leonard, Heike, and all people over there.
Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful welcome and that deep appreciation, that Indian devotion for Leonard as well. We were so welcome and we felt so loved in your community. So maybe you tell us a little bit more about your community.
Community, I started sometime in 2006. My guru, Malati Devi, Om Malati Devi, that's her name. In 2005, she told me to start, in Indian language, we call it Satsanga. She said, you start community, every month you meet, and you lead it. I was not very willing. In fact, I was very reluctant because it's keeping contact with the people, teaching them, calling them, speaking with them, something which I don't like actually. But she insisted that I do that. And so in 2006, I started this spiritual community. And every month we meet, we meditate, we pray, we chant together. And after meeting Leonard in 2013, we started doing breathwork every month together. We do sometimes even past life regression also. And I mean, my guru is not in the body right now. She left her body in 2009. But that continues in spite of, she is not there to force me, to compel me, but somehow we like that, somehow that having a community is a sort of a support to everybody. It is something like a reminder to me to be, to continue doing spiritual practices. And also it offers a place where I can express, where I'm not being judged, I'm not commented, and there is unconditional love kind of thing flowing, where everybody understands you the way you are. You are accepted the way you are, with all your limitations, shortcomings, and it's a great help. Of course, this all we came to understand after meeting Leonard. Till that time, we were continuing, I mean, we were meeting and doing all those things. But how important is to have a spiritual community? That's something we realized only after meeting Leonard. When Leonard pointed out, appreciated, and talked a lot about our community. In fact, he was with us for 15 days and he met several community members. And he appreciated so much that we really grew strong after meeting Leonard. Now it's 2020, so for 14 years, we have this spiritual community.
Yes,
And,
Leonard always said that there is the 8 things that we need to become physically immortal, and air, earth, water, and fire, the physical elements he always talked about. And then there is love, which is spiritual community. And he always said that we can only make it in a context of spiritually like-minded people, and that's why our Physical Immortality Day today is so important, because we are basically uniting people from all around the world in Leonard's name, as well as with the idea of spiritual community and physical immortality. And then there is grace and rest as the other biggies. And your community, Leonard was so amazed about the purity and the beauty of you and your community, and he loved being there. So the first time we went there, I stayed longer, I think, and then we did the training, and we had a training first with lots of men, and then we had a training with all the wives and women, and then we actually had a training with all the children.
exactly, yes.
So we had a training where the grown-up friends of the community were rebirthing their children, and so the whole community actually became rebirthers. And Leonard always referred to how that we trained 40 plus rebirthers, many more rebirthers probably, and you've done a good job continuing with that. So tell me how you experienced Leonard and his spiritual practices.
Yes, it was fun actually when looking at Leonard and how committed he is about his spiritual practices. Um, as a community, we were doing meditation. It's part of the spiritual practices. But he insisted that we do fire, and we also uh, have bath. In India, we are as a bath. What we mean in India as bath is shower. Whereas, so we don't have bathtubs. When Leonard came to Pune first time, the place where he was staying, we did not have bathtub. And I said, we don't have. And in India, it's very difficult to get a ready-made bathtub, getting fitted and getting that kind of water. And so it was very difficult. I told point blank that I'm sorry, Leonard, but it's not possible here. He said, fine, that's okay. If you don't have bathtub, that's okay. And he took me to the balcony of that bungalow where he was staying, and he showed me one plastic water tank, which is used for storage of water, which was on the rooftop of our neighboring bungalow, and he showed me, can you have something like that tank? I said, yes, that is available in the market. He said, I want to buy one.
It's a big water tank out of plastic.
Having 300 or 400 liters of water, that kind of a tank, big black water tank. And we went to the market, and he showed me, this is the tank I want to buy, and he paid for that. I don't know what he wants to do. And he told the shopkeeper, the person who sold us that tank, that I want to cut it open. The top part of the tank, which is the closure, he said, I want to cut it. Shopkeeper refused. He said, no, we don't do that. This is a good tank. You are going to spoil my business. I am not going to cut it. He said, I want to cut it. He said, no, you cannot do it here. Somehow he agreed that, okay, if you want to cut, you cut yourself. Leonard asked me to get one hacksaw, a steel hacksaw blade. And he said, I will do it myself. And he cut it himself, the top part of the tank, and used that water tank, 300-liter capacity, plastic, black color water tank as a bathtub. And that was his idea. And he did that one small opening at the bottom of the tank, cut it small and put a small vessel so it's a lock kind of thing. He created a bathtub out of water tank. It was such an amazing, and there were so many people because the whole thing was going on the street, on the road. Shop was on the road. Outside the shop, the whole cutting, European, Westerner cutting at water tank and you doing something. It was such a fun for all the Indians around. There was a big crowd. And once his cutting was over, he asked Heike that, Heike, you also buy one, it's for you. So she also bought. Then I asked Heike, can I employ somebody to cut that tank? Leonard said, no, she is also a karma yogi. She will do that. And Heike then used that hacksaw and cut the top of the water tank. And he created a bathtub out of that plastic water tank. We had tempo uploaded over there. We did that all storage. Now I have a center in Breathwork for Breathwork in India for the spiritual community. And we have got 6 bathtubs. I'm talking about 2016. When Leonard came first time, it was 2013. In 2016, we have got 6 bathtubs. But still, I have got those both water tanks cut open as a souvenir for Leonard's first visit to our center.
Yes, we were very creative all around the world. The first thing that we needed to do, if people didn't have bathtubs, we would have to create them. And we had either plastic swimming pools for kids, and we had all sorts of options. and it was part of his life and essential for him to process the emotional energy that he felt he was encountering all around him, and to keep his body healthy and alive. So bathtubs were an essential part of his life till, I guess, the last few months of his life, when he was very weak. And but he was so unconventional. He didn't accept a no. If he had something on his mind that he wanted, it didn't matter what the shop owner said or anybody said or complained about, he would just go forward with it. And so are you practicing spiritual purification now? What was your inspiration from his meeting?
Yes, because that impressed us so much that after his departure from our place, from Pune, I bought the bathtub. I fitted in my bathroom at my house. I have got 1 bathtub. I have got 6 bathtubs at our center in Pimpri, in Pune. And we are using it. I'm using it. And we are doing fire every day, which is actually a crazy thing in India, because though in India we know dhuni and all that, but doing fire every day in the evening outside our house. I mean, initially there was so much noise around our, in the people, neighboring people, why are you doing, what are you doing, what is this? And there is a lot of smoke also, because sometimes the wood is not dry one. But we are doing it, and it helps a lot, a lot. I mean, we have experienced this several times. Even people who don't do breath work, or who are not introduced to breath work, but they even they realize that once you sit with the fire for an hour or so, I mean, there's a lot of purification. A lot of people feel a little lighter. I mean, they feel that you can float around. It's just sitting with the fire and does so much purification. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so Leonard learned all the practices in Babaji's ashram, actually, because Babaji was having fire every day and they were doing the sacred fire ceremonies, and everybody had to take a bath in the river twice a day, even so it was ice cold. We went together to Hedakan. I think a couple of times. You were there too, but Leonard loved to go there, and he spent many months with Babaji when Babaji was still in the body. And so he learned the practices of water, of fire, and then Babaji gave him special tasks of fasting. One time Leonard fasted for 87 days on a different routine that Babaji gave him. At some point, for some days, he could only drink milk. At other times, he could drink only once a day, and he had some extreme fasting. And then he said he had to learn to eat again because his body was not used to food anymore. So the earth element is actually food mastery and also exercise. So Leonard was always into working with hands. So the hacksaw, I mean, he didn't believe in machines. So on his property and everywhere we went, we were digging, we were doing stuff, we were building doonies, and he loved the physical activity. So karma yoga, that's what the word in the ashram is for physical activity. And together with the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, Babaji said that at this point in the human evolution, we are not really able to sit still too much and meditate, but that we can get our spiritual purification with exercise, and at the same time focusing our mind on the divine essence. So what is your take on physical immortality, Rajendra?
Yes, I mean, Indians, in our scriptures, we have got plenty of examples and stories about the immortals. But somehow in last 1,000 years, Indians believe in death so much that whenever Leonard used to talk about immortality in the trainings, people used to comment it's not possible, it's impossible. And in fact, my first take was also Leonard doesn't know Indian scriptures in real sense. Indian scriptures do have stories about immortals, but death is the reality. Death is something. And in fact, once I had some argument also with him because I think it was some Babaji who talked about water purification. We used to do bath stuff, and he said you can also imagine, instead of using water physically, you can imagine that in the meditation you can visualize that you are being purified by water. You don't need to use physical water because there is shortage of water and there is not enough water available for you. He said, if you can do that also, but then you can also visualize food. Visualize that you are eating food, and then you can just do away with eating. Don't eat anything. Just visualize. If that works for you, then it works for your water also, water purification. But is that reality? I said, no, I have to eat because, and particularly we Indians are so fond of eating and so fond of various food items and foods and all that. He said, if you can't do that, you can't even visualize water. For
And
purification, you have to, yes, you have to use water. You have to use physical elements for purification. That is important.
As long as we are living in the material world and we need food, we can't eat poison without getting poisoned by the strength of our mind and the visualization. we haven't mastered it yet. And so as long as we haven't mastered the direct connection between our thoughts and our creative power, we suggest that we do spiritual practices so that we can make it. Thank you, Rajendra. Anything else? I mean, you're doing trainings. Chitra Kaul, who is a rebirther from Delhi, she's not here today, but you and her are the most reliable rebirthers that I know in India, and the representatives also of Rebirth International Breathwork Association. So how can people reach you? And you can type maybe your connection into the chat.
Okay.
When we are finished, so that people know how they could reach you. And we wish anything else you like to share before we finish and go to Irene.
I'm grateful to Leonard.
Namaste. Can we see Sneha? Sneha, come in and just, she wants to.
Yes, I'll call her.
Okay. Thank you, Rajendra. We really appreciate you. And I would love, in the meantime, after, yeah, okay, I would like to do some screen sharing and play a video for everybody. And be patient with me. I will have to get out of my camera so that so then I can share with you a video.
Yeah, we can share video and thereafter.
Okay. So I have to get off my camera and then I share my screen. And well, one moment. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Did you like that? Jan Hooks is actually coming this afternoon at 3 o'clock, who produced that video. Ah, Sneha, I'm happy always to see you, and I hope when all this pandemic is over, then we will come together again in India. I was actually planning to come to the Kumbh Mela this year, but I think it might not happen. So the coming year. So thank you very much, Rajendra and Sneha, for all that you're doing. And okay, thank you. So now we go to Irene Jove Baumann, who is a rebirther since, even before me. She did the training with Leonard, so she will tell us more about it. She's been with Rebirth International Breathwork Association since, I mean, the Rebirthing International movement, since Leonard started it in Spain, and with Fanny van Leer, and she's been a rebirther since all these years. And we love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about your story and your meetings with Leonard. And welcome, Irene.
Thank you very much. Yes, I met Rebirthing in '89 and Leonard in the 90, in a 1-month training in Spain, and it was a professional training. And my idea wasn't to be a rebirther yet, but I couldn't resist to meet Leonard personally after the 10 breathing, my first 10 breathing sessions, because I was so impressed that I wanted to meet the founder of Rebirthing, and I had this opportunity, and all my all my life changed from that point, no? So and then well, I've been practicing rebirthing since then, and I am a full-time rebirther since 13 years ago now, since 2007, full-time. So I have been going slowly, step by step. Yes, and well, I feel now a little shy because it's the first time that I speak English online with so many people. So, but it's better that you ask me, Heike.
Okay, well, there was one question I also wanted to ask Rajendra. Maybe we can come back to that a little later, but it is like, so what was your personal experience, Irene, with Leonard, and how he was relating to people and his training? So what did you experience with him?
My experiences has developed during the years, because it's not the same. I am not the same now or 2 years ago than 30 years ago, and Leonard either, no? I mean, the first time I met Leonard, oh, well, I can say that more or less always my relationship with Leonard has been through a silent communication, like an inner communication. I was very like in his presence. I prefer to be like in silence, no. But the first years I went to his trainings, I always had a lot of questions to ask him. But then in his presence, many questions were answered already, you know. And so
let me just say, there's a couple of people, Amparo and Naomi, if you could turn your microphone off, please. There is some sound in the background. Thanks. Okay.
So also another thing, it impressed me very much the first time I met Leonard was his eyes when he was talking about Babaji, because it was like, wow, no? And it impressed me very much, and I felt, wow, it's something very special, the relationship between them, no? The disciple relationship, guru disciple, because it was like this, no? Before I have read in the books about gurus and disciples and physical immortality, and I also, when I was a child, I saw the film. What was the name of this film? Lost Horizons. Do you know this film?
No, Lost Horizons?
Lost Horizons. It's about immortals in the mountains.
Okay.
Very old film. And I saw this film with my grandmother, and I get also very impressed. So when I met Leonard, talking about physical immortality, knowing Babaji, well, all my life was like
Turned upside down.
A revolution, sorry. Yes, but I took some years to integrate this experience, the experience about being with Leonard 1 month. I was like 26 years old, I think, in that moment, and yes, I needed to question a lot of things from my unconscious. So I decided to, well, the first year I worked a little bit as a rebirther, and also I did Reiki and astrology, but then I was so like confused that I decided to work as a social worker, to having a comfortable work. I mean, you know, because
stable income.
With income and yes. And then in 2000, no, in 97, yes, in 97, I remember that Leonard came again to near where I live now. And I went there only one morning to see him, like putting my finger in the cold water and then, or in, you know, I was like prudent, no? And then you were there, you came, no, you weren't there in that training, but you came there a few months ago afterwards, and then I started again with the trainings, rebirthing trainings, and since now. Yes.
Yes, well, Leonard loved to go to Spain, as much as to India. I think he's been to Spain because he loved the spiritual community that is there of rebirthers, and also of people that practice his way of life or his teachings on physical immortality. And we would drive. He didn't like to fly, so we would drive. I usually would have to drive, and he would lie in the back of the car, and we would drive all the way from Germany to Spain, two-day drive, and I was driving. And he didn't trust in a navigation system, so he was always looking at the map, driving through Paris, coming down to Spain, and he would he would try to figure out the way on the road.
I also had the honor to cross Spain driving, and I enjoyed very much being with Leonard in these trips, travels. And once we drove all the nights until Christine, which she's here today.
Ah, we went to France. You went to France. We met in France, right?
I and Leonard driving all the nights. Few hours me and few hours him, and it was like exciting. Yes, it was a very beautiful experience also for me. And there I had an experience with Leonard that surprised me very much, because during the driving, in one moment I felt a lot of jealousy. I felt a lot of jealousy because I was imagining my a friend I had with another woman, and I was so jealous. I was terrible. And then he started in a moment, he started to speak about jealousy, about a story when once he was very jealous. He was feeling a lot of jealous because a friend, I don't know what. And I was like, wow, how did he know that I was feeling this, or I don't know. So it was like we had a lot of connection in that moment, no?
Well, Leonard was very aware of the emotions and very tuned in to everybody. He just knew what was going on emotionally. And yeah, I have I just have a story I want to tell you.
Yes.
One time we came back from Spain,
Hmm.
and we crossed the border to France, and my car started slowing down and stopping, and I stopped and I said, well, my car has a problem. Let's we were on the border of Spain still. I said, let's fix it here, because I can speak some Spanish and I speak Portuguese, so I can help myself. But if we go to France, I'm lost. And Leonard said, don't fix what is not broken. So he insisted. I was steaming. I was like, oh my God, my car is breaking down. We're in the middle of nowhere. I processed my energy running around the car. Leonard was just sitting there. And then we continued driving, and after 5 or 10 minutes going up a hill, it just stopped and it didn't come back. And so another time I had thought, I want to go and stop in the south of France. And I had asked Leonard, please, let's stop in the south of France and look around a little bit. And my car broke down in Avignon. And so then Leonard didn't want to stay, so we drove back on the train, and I had to go back there, and then I had a couple of days to spend in the south of France. So I mean, there's so many stories. How is your life, Irene, with physical immortality practices or the spiritual purification practices?
Yes. Well, for me, it's fundamental, the relationship with earth, water, fire, and air. No? So I like to bath every day, every day. Well, I also already liked very much to bath before meeting Leonard. So it was perfect that Leonard allowed me to bath twice every day, no? It was like, wow, now I have the
Permission.
The permission. Yes, and also the fire, with the fire. So I think the body has the capacity to regenerate the body, but as Leonard said, it's a game. The spiritual purification game. No, it's like we have to purify enough to gain the no
to
win the game. Yes. So I try to do this, but it's not always easy to stop and to do enough spiritual purification practices as I would like to do. No, so for me it's always a challenge. Yes, the balance. It must be. We have to achieve this balance between doing service, work, and resting. Leonard gave a lot of importance in resting. So also one thing that it impressed me when I met Leonard, it was like he was giving the lessons in that moment, because he was in senility in that moment in 90. He gave his teachings
lying down
in the floor, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting school. I like this way of teaching. So it was like being as much relaxed as possible to heal.
Yes, you always used to say relaxation and tension cannot be at the same place in the same moment. So either we are tense or we are relaxed. And so we have to do enough practices that relax us so profoundly and deeply that our body stays healthy and can rejuvenate rejuvenate in that.
Exactly.
Is that Glen Smily?
That is. Hi, Heike. How
Oh
are you?
my God, I haven't seen you in years. And
Wow.
it must be the middle of the night with you, isn't it?
It's 3 a.m.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad that you are here. Oh my
Well,
God.
thank you. It's so good to see you.
Yes. Oh, we love to hear from you. We always also want to hear from Zanna from South Africa. So we have a few more people that we want to hear of, but oh, Glenn, I'm so amazed and excited that you're here.
Still here.
So Irene, anything that you like to share more about your experiences with Leonard and maybe about the rebirthing practice, because Leonard created rebirthing and he was the fountain of all the movements and all the practices and techniques that developed out of the conscious connected breathing that he accidentally, that Babaji gave him in the 70s. So what is your experience and the healings that people have and experience that I also have clients that actually experience Leonard coming into the sessions.
Yes.
Anything special that you could share with us about the rebirthing?
Okay. Okay. Well, also saying that I received once a session from Leonard, and he was also laying down like this the whole session. So, but I achieved a very special state of mind in that session. It was like I could be aware of each thought, but the thoughts were very few thoughts. I had very few thoughts, and they were very slow coming, and so I could experience also very clearly the space between thoughts in Leonard's session to me. So that's something I wanted to share.
So Leonard was always referring to our state of oneness and union, and in between our thoughts, that we could experience our true being, our true nature in the space between our thoughts, but also in our thoughts if they are coming from the divine inspiration. So Leonard always talked about the space between our thoughts. And when we have that practical experience of that reality beyond the mind, we are enlightened if we can stay there.
Yes. And about the practices of rebirthing, for me, it's very amazing and surprising the effects of 10 sessions, 10 individual breathing sessions. I work with a lot of clients since many years now, and I am always amazed, surprised from the results with people, and the difference between when they start with the cycle, the 10 sessions, and in the end. So I always recommend a lot to experience the rebirthing breathing sessions, a 10 cycle of breathing sessions, individual.
Yes.
It's a very profound and transformational practice.
As Leonard wanted to experience people to have their first sessions in a private setting, so that because we never know what is going to happen with them, that they are safely protected and guided, and that they have the space for themselves to go wherever it needs to take.
Yeah.
And of course, we are aware there's a lot of people that love group rebirthing, but we would like people to have just that first initiation into the breath in private, safe settings. So once they have that experience, then they can experiment with what they want to do.
Yes, what I experiment with the sessions is that, and every year I am more aware of it, that we are working or touching our baby's memories as a baby, when we were maybe 2 months old only, or 4 months, and the baby is so sensitive, so sensible, and I think many of us, we have traumas of abandonment traumas. So it's very important to keep a very like silence and private surrounding, and complete attention to this little baby that felt very vulnerable. And when we attend this little baby that it's inside of each of one of us, and the baby feels secure, I mean, in a safe space, healing occurs. Deep healing occurs. That's something I would like. It's nice to share with you.
Thank you, Irene. I'm just watching the time, and in India, actually, today is Diwali, so it's very special that Rajendra and Sneha are here with us. Even so, there's a lot of celebration and commitments going on with you. So if you anytime need to go, we would understand that. And Glen, are you going to be up for a little bit longer? I wanted to go to Zanna now, but if you have to go back to bed.
No, take your time. Take your time. I'm here it's a blessing to be here.
Okay, great. Actually, Zanna, you are from South Africa. I hope I'm still I'm not pronouncing your name right, maybe. But tell us a little bit about you. And you are a rebirther also since a long time, and you are in the community in South Africa. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, thank you, Heike, for organizing this very special event. You actually pronounced my name Zanna, and I come from Ukraine, Poland, and I live in South Africa now, in Cape Town. So this is where I stay, but I'm originally from another part of the world. And Leonard Orr changed my life. It happened in 1981. So that's almost 40 years ago.
Oh.
And it happened in Johannesburg. I was always quite a curious person about life, coming from Eastern Europe and all the background there. And one day I was introduced to someone called Jeremy Burnham. And Jeremy Burnham just came from England, and he did the training with Leonard Orr. So it was a direct transmission. And we did a rebirthing sort of seminar or workshop out of Johannesburg. And all I can say that my life changed completely on that particular event. I think we were about 12 people, and I feel like I was the one that really, firstly, I resonated with physical immortality. It was like it was a total acceptance in every cell of my body that physical immortality was me. And of course, the power of breath and thought, which was total gift, and the gift of Babaji. So in 1983, I went to India, to Harakan, with my baby son, who was then 14 months. And honestly, I was the last person to do such a trip. I mean, we then traveled I think we left Tuesday morning and arrived in Harakan. It was just before the monsoons. It was hot, and we arrived on Thursday afternoon. And the beauty of it, although it was so hot, that I had basically a lot of contact with Babaji for 3 weeks, because the main people used to come in December. So July and June were quite sort of quiet times. So it was a blessing. And my experience with Babaji is another story altogether. It was truly also, I mean, I think it changed everything for me. And the love was the greatest gift that I really experienced, love that was not related to men or women or any. It was a love that was, it was really a divine love. Okay, so that was my amazing experience with Babaji. And the only thing I want to say about Babaji, besides all the other amazing things that happened for me there, is that I agreed with something that Leonard said. And Leonard said at the time that if more rebirthers who were open to physical immortality would be more around Babaji, he felt that the outcome and the manifestation of what happened would have been different. And I felt the same. I had an amazing experience around Babaji, and I felt that I was actually also able to see him as my mirror and offer something of myself, which he mirrored immediately back to me. So I was already, again, thank you to Leonard, like he really gave me my power back. So that was very special. And with the rebirthing, I don't want to show you, because remember you asked me.
Yes,
so,
for the article, yes.
The article, can you see it?
Yes. Immortalist wants to do it forever.
Someone wrote an article about me. I didn't ask them. They just wrote this article. It was in 1989 because I had this sticker on my car.
Immortals do it forever.
It was.
Yeah, I used to have that too.
Yes, and so this person offered to do an article, and I actually sent that article to Peace. And in the article, obviously, Leonard Orr and rebirthing is mentioned a lot, and the purifications and all the things that at the time I was very much into. We did a lot of breath work in Johannesburg, 1-year seminars, etc., etc. I now live in Cape Town for some time. The energy here is different. I don't have as such rebirthing colleagues here. I've got other breathwork friends who are more holotropic and that. So Leonard has changed my life. I felt, if I can describe it, he basically took me from one orbit into the other. It was immortality and death somehow don't, to me, life is unlimited. And the idea that death is inevitable never felt happy for me. So immortality is really my passion. That's actually why I decided to come on this forum and share a few of my thoughts around it. But again, to honor Leonard, and I've met Leonard actually only once in Cape Town, and it was in the 1990s. And yeah, it was just someone special. I don't think I've got enough words to express my gratitude. He just basically turned my life around. So I want to honor Leonard very much. And about physical immortality, what has slightly changed for me that I prefer, because I feel personally that I want to reach to a broader type of audience. I mean, among my rebirthing friends and all my eccentric friends, and it's easy. We can be who we are, but I felt like we need to find a way to reach to a wider audience, because immortality is not going to be possible. I feel like just on a lone kind of, and not even fun to be a lone yogi in a cave somewhere, reclusing myself. I want to be part of life and part of, you know, a community, a broader community. So I've been exploring and kind of finding what is another way of communicating what Leonard said so beautifully, the common sense of physical mortality, the actual benefits, because if people really get how beneficial it is, then there's nothing to lose. And I just want to read a quote, which I really love And it says, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will land among the stars. So whatever, we've got nothing to lose. And for me, I prefer these days to communicate on immortality, that it's something kind of new. We're exploring something new. It is, it's a suggestion. I would like to invite people to consider the possibility the body is divine too, that the body is not separate from spirit or mind, that maybe it's time to really start honoring our physicality, because we are physical, spiritual, emotional, it's all one. And somehow for too long, the body has always been put as something inferior. So I like to just invite people to consider that the body is also divine. And I like to say, I am divine, body, mind, and spirit, not just body or spirit, to really unite. And I find that people are much more open when I approach it more from a suggestive, never from authority, because authority, you know what happens with authority. The rebels will always prove us wrong, and that's not what we want. We don't want to be dead right. So it's better to not play authority and think that I know it all. All I'm doing is I'm communicating something that makes sense to me. And the interesting thing, Heike, that actually recently I saw from the Torah something, from the Jewish Torah, that actually pointed out that there is a meaning to life. And it's very few that might get it, that the meaning of life is to sanctify life, to sanctify our daily existence, and to see that physicality is actually also sacred. We made it some kind of inferior, the body, the physicality, the flesh. No, it's all divine substance. And as we embrace it more, we don't know what's possible. We can just experiment in this arena. So that to me is another orbit which I like to invite people to almost I envisage for myself having a gathering. I love the word satsang, just for us to be together, just to be bathing in the immortal energy, in the thought that, yes, I am physically immortal, I'm divine, body, mind, and spirit. And sometimes we've got nothing else to say, to just be in that pool of aliveness and experience the amazing things that can happen from it. So that's what I can say in short. There's lots obviously to further. I don't know if you want to ask anything. I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I feel like...
Well, I thank you so much for being here with us, and the other calls that we had before. I think you're a real inspiration. And it's very important what you say, that we know this community. And so Rebirth International Breathwork Association, that also includes Sarah Dawn, who's probably sleeping, and Peace Arnold, who we are together with Irene and Rajendra and Chitra and Armando. We are creating and building up Rebirth International Breath Association, and we will continue all the teachings that Leonard put out, and that of course includes the worldwide community, and that includes definitely physical immortality. I do have a couple more things. First of all, I have an interview that I like to play at the end from Jim Morningstar, a greeting for Leonard. And but I also like now to hear from Glen, because Glen, we haven't met since, I don't know when that was. We were in Afton. You did a
20 years ago. It was
How
20
many?
years ago. 20 years ago.
Oh my God. How have you been? Tell us about you. You are a rebirther since 30, 40 years?
1977.
Wow. So you went with Leonard also to Hedakan, to India?
I did. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we do.
It's above volume, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and there are people asleep in the other
Right.
rooms.
No, but we can hear you well. We can
good.
hear you.
So, yeah. There's so much. I mean, what would you like to know, Heike?
Well, we personally met, and you were doing a training with us, and you were giving us great initiations at that time. Tell us about your professional career, but also then your times with Babaji and Leonard in India. The first times, the beginning of the rebirthing movement, I'm always curious about that.
Well, good. How long do I have to talk?
Well, let's say
I know there's a lot of people in line.
start up, and we see how it goes.
Okay. I was invited to participate in the rebirthing movement in June of 1977. I had been facilitating a program called Silva Mind Control. And I facilitated that for 4.5 years in South Florida. And in that program, there were a set of circumstances you had to present in the program, but you could develop your own data seminars that equated to what the course was about. And I began teaching physical immortality in those seminars in 1972.
Wow.
In 1977, I had ended my tour of teaching that, and I was looking for what was next. And I was invited to lunch with a chiropractor friend of mine who had done all my work. And he was having lunch with his friend from Arizona. And we went to lunch, and at lunch, this guy says, "I have a book for you." And I brought it with me from Arizona. I didn't know who it was for, but it's for you. So I said, "Oh, good. I'll surely read it." And so he handed me a book called Rebirthing in the New Age with Leonard Orr and Sandra Ray. So I went home from that lunch, and before even reading the book, I opened it to the back, and there was a list of current rebirthers in 1977. It was a small list. There was one person in Miami. That's it. That book.
That was Leonard in the Tub with Sandra Ray.
Yeah. So I got the book, and in the back there was a list of rebirthers. There was one in Miami and one in Tampa, and I was living in Fort Lauderdale. So I decided to call the one in Tampa. And so I called her up. This was like on a Thursday, and I called her up and I said, "I got this book. I haven't read it yet, but I do need to do this. This is what's next for me." She said, "Well, when can you come over?" And I said, "Well, I want to do it right away." She said, "Well, I'm going out of town for 2 weeks. Can you wait till I get back?" And I said, "No, I got to do it now." So she said, "Well, you come on over here on Saturday, and I will rebirth you Sunday morning before I go to the airport." So I said, "Okay." She said, "Where will you stay?" I said, "I'll get a hotel." She said, "Oh, no." She said, "We have an extra room in our house. If we're not home when you get here, the key will be under the mat. Just come on in." It's like, oh my gosh, the trust this person had, never even met me before. So she was a psychologist and her husband was a veterinarian. And I got there and they weren't home. So I went in and made myself comfortable. They got home and we shared. And then Sunday morning, I wound up in a hot tub with Ree Anderson, her name was, and another lady was with her to support her in the tub. And my first experience of rebirthing was through a snorkel. It was so profoundly life-changing. I mean, when I breathed, it didn't seem like a lot was happening, but evidently I stopped breathing at some point underwater. And I didn't breathe for so long that they got really, really nervous about it. And they pulled me up out of the water. And as they did, I just popped up out of the water. And she held me. but that didn't seem to be so much nurturing for me. But while I was underwater breathing, her husband came home from work and he got in the tub, and I didn't know he was in the tub. And after she held me, she took me over into his arms and he held me, and I lost it. I had never been hugged by a man in my life. I could never have, didn't have that experience. And I just lost it. And the tears, and I don't know how long it went on and how long they stayed with me, but that changed my life from where I was to being on the pathway. I knew this was something I had to do. So from that experience, she went on to California, and I called the lady in Miami, and I had 2 dry sessions with her, and then came back and did another a wet session. And from then on, I was a rebirther. I just added rebirthing as a tool to what I was already doing. And so I have actually 50 years of facilitating self-help seminars and workshops. In all those years, Leonard would come to Florida, he'd come to our home, he'd stay with us, whichever companion he had with him at the time. And he was always sourced by a good female energy that he had. And I was with Barbara. Barbara and I came together in 1981. So we've been married since 1985, and we've worked together. But Leonard and his entourage would show up, and he would come for our one-day seminars once in a while. And then he invited me about 20 years ago to do a seminar in Stanton at his Jubilee, summer Jubilee. Before that, I had been to 3 name just went around. I mean, the programs out in Aspen that we had every year. We had a Rebirthers Jubilee out in Aspen. And
in Afton?
Aspen, Colorado.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was a conference of all the rebirthers, and we'd spend 2 weeks there, and go to, rebirth each other and share our stories. And I met Leonard more personally then in 1978, and he was putting together a program for 1979 called Rebirth America.
Yes. And
so I joined. I set up a test. I really did, because I wasn't quite sure how deeply I would get involved in this. But Leonard was going to see Babaji in 1980. So in 1979, after the August connection and then getting together for Rebirth America, I set up a test, and I told my friend, I said, if Leonard calls me on the phone, I will know that I'm supposed to go to India with him.
Oh.
Now, Leonard has never called me. I mean, we were just on the periphery of each other's lives at that time. But I said, because I wanted to go, but I didn't know if I was really invited or, what the procedure was. And in 2 days before Christmas, in December of '79, the phone rang, and it was Leonard. And he was calling me to see if I would move to Europe and take over the clients for 6 months of this rebirther who wanted to come do his 6-month training. And so he was calling me to see if I would fill in for that person and move to Europe for 6 months. And I said, well, no, Leonard, I'm not going to do that, but you've called me, so I'm going to go to India with you. And 5 days later, I was in Switzerland with Leonard. And we did a training for like 50 people in Switzerland, many of who didn't speak English at all. And we did that training, and it was life-changing there, meeting all those people and sharing with them. And then we went on from there to Harakan.
How was your first meeting with Babaji?
It was a kind of a unique experience because Leonard became someone I didn't know. When we got, it was a difficult journey to get there. And when we got there, he got to the ashram, and there was Babaji. And here we are coming up, and Leonard became like a little child, an innocent little child with his father. It was so profound seeing him transform and so love this person I had never met, didn't know a whole lot about. And that was the start of it, to watch how he transformed. So then I was there, and being new to anything India and being new in the spiritual path and in the rebirthing movement, I was a little reluctant with Babaji. But there came a time where we were in darshan with him, and everybody is in line going up and sitting down in front of him, and he'll talk to you or whatever he did. But when I got there, I sat down and I was looking down at his feet, and then I looked up, and as I looked up, he just engulfed me in love. It was just the most moving experience you can imagine. It just washed right through me, and I knew we were connected. That was it. We were connected, and he loved me, and I loved him, and he loved the world, and I loved the world. And so that was the most profound part of my experience with Babaji. And that was in like 78 or 79. And it was during that time there was a rough patch for Leonard when he got decertified by the certified rebirthers. It was like kill the leader syndrome going on there. And it was really very emotional for me because I was very protective of Leonard. And these people were really in their egos and their parents' stuff that went on. And so that was really an upsetting time. But then I got decertified too. I was certified in 1980 at the Jubilee. And then they decertified me in 81. And so I think Leonard and I are the only two decertified rebirthers in the world.
Yeah, it was a game where you had to stand up and say that why you think you are a certified rebirther, and that if any one person in the whole group said, I don't recognize you as a certified rebirther, then you would be decertified. So
right, there were 12 original certified rebirthers. And so in that particular Jubilee, there were like eight more of us that were certified. And then the next spring, they I won't say who started my decertification, but it didn't stop me from rebirthing people or helping people with my journey. And so
well, the certification game was, Leonard always said, the only one who can certify you is your next client and God. And but he felt that it was important that we listen to feedback of other people. And that's when he also created the master game, that the idea of the master game was actually that we are able to communicate and relate to equals and become more saintly, become more whole in that.
Be more responsible.
Right. So any other story that you have? I'm seeing James has a picture of Leonard in the back. I think Babaji asked him once to, yeah, we see it. Leonard is sitting there with a crown on something, and I have a picture of that actually. Well, Babaji had everybody honor Leonard in some ways, right?
I sent that picture to Leonard. Maybe that's how you have it.
I have it.
Oh, you do? What's your name? I'm sorry. You look so familiar.
I'm Heike Strombach.
Okay, and the gentleman who was just talking, he looks really familiar too.
Glen Smily.
Okay, I was in Heracon in 1980. I tagged along with Leonard, and I ended up taking, Babaji let me take photos while I was there. So that's a picture of Leonard when Leonard got to the ashram and he filled in Babaji about what he was doing with rebirthing. And Babaji immediately said that rebirthing was the new yoga. And he proclaimed Leonard was a king. And so that's a ceremony. I took that picture. That's a ceremony where Leonard is actually being made a king. It's
Wow.
it's like an old, Shaivite.
I have a few of those pictures.
So anyway, yeah. So I traveled with Leonard. I don't know if I was there on that same trip, but
Did you do the training in Switzerland?
no, we were in Belgium. There was
Oh, okay. Yeah, there would be a different time then.
It was in the summer of 1980. It was called the First International Rebirthers Convention. And there were a lot of Rajneesh people there, and it was crazy. It was great, And we were at a monastery, and I was certified. We did that certification where you get up in front of the crowd and certify.
Yeah.
I was certified by Leonard, officially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's where I was in Amsterdam, living in Amsterdam at the time, and I met one of his rebirthers and started listening to his tapes. And next thing I knew, I was going to this rebirthers convention. We were doing wet rebirthing. They had tubs, and it was just amazing, just an amazing experience. And then Leonard was talking a lot about Babaji, and I had only heard about Babaji from reading Paramahansa's Yogananda's book. And then one day Leonard announced that he was going to India, and he was, and we all looked at each other and said, let's go to India. So the next thing I know, I'm on a jet to India. It was quite a, then we traveled through the jungle. About that trip, right?
Right.
Oh, the rivers, walking through the river with your
Well,
suitcase on your head.
walked recently through the river, but everybody was looking at me like, where did you come from? And I said, well, everybody walks through the river in Hedakan. That was only 2 years ago, but nowadays people don't walk very much through the river. They come
Okay.
because there's a road right to Hedakan, and you can take a car there.
Yeah.
And I feel motion sick, so I never like to take the car. So I like walking through the river still. And last time Leonard went, also we I think Rajendra, that was 3 years ago or something. Then we were also still walking through the river. Oh, one time we all walked and we nearly drowned. All our clothes were wet. We were a group of 8, and all our luggage went under.
Well, it was
up
dangerous.
to the waist in the water.
It was dangerous. I mean, there were tigers out there. There were lions, and we went right through the jungle. It was, wow, I can't believe we did that.
Just to everybody, are you all in our newsletter, the newsletter of that Sarah Dawn sends out?
I am not. I saw this. The only reason I saw this was on Facebook. So,
okay, are you in touch? Are you in the Rebirthing community group?
I wish I was. I don't know. I poke around. I've been actually.
If you could connect with us, because you probably have a lot of stories, and we are actually also preparing a tribute for Leonard together with Dan Burley and his Breath Fest. And so we are collecting all these stories and pictures and whatever you have. And James, if you could type your connection, and also maybe for Glenn and for anybody, you can type your connection into the chat, so we know how to connect to you. And I actually deleted the paper where I had everything that I wanted to post in here, but we can send you the newsletter and link you in with us. So that is very lovely. So everybody, write into the chat if you're not on the newsletter now, how we can connect with you.
Okay, I can do a chat. I mean, I could, I could put a chat into this Zoom
Right.
meeting.
Yes, right.
If you
Glenn
just
just did. So,
how do I get in touch? Can you just tell me quickly, like
well,
an email address or something, or
I just give you my email address, which is my name, Heike Strombach at yahoo.com, at gmail.com. 1 second, I write it into the chat. But,
okay, great. Yeah, I've been trying to find people, where are you located now?
I am in Germany, actually.
Okay.
I used to be a lot around Leonard. Every year I would spend 4 to 6 months with him, traveling, and
I remember your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, what an adventure, boy.
But yeah, he was always he was there. Every day something would happen. I mean, there was no day that was just without any excitement or any adventure.
It was spontaneous. Every day was spontaneous.
And life was so fast around him, whenever I would be alone in Germany or somewhere else, it would life would slow down.
Yeah.
And but life was exciting, and you could really rely on him and trust him.
Me too.
So
yeah. I'm sitting in my apartment in Manhattan, looking out at 42nd Street, and it's different.
Right.
It's a different situation. It's not Heracon.
Well, actually, Peace Arnold lives in New York.
Oh yeah, who's that?
Peace Arnold.
Don't know.
She's actually the Facebook group is Rebirth International Community Group. And she is the main communicator on Facebook. I'm not always there so much. Let me ask, Herman, is that actually you from Holland? I think I'm just curious. So it is my friend Herman. Hey, there's a rebirther from Holland.
So that you can see us both.
Wow.
Yes, we see you.
We are looking at the big screen.
Well, but we see you from the side right now.
My computer is that way. My daughter is that way.
Yeah, we see you from the side. So now I see you from the front.
Yes, I will look into the camera.
Okay.
How are you?
Very good. Tell us just the most exciting thing that you learned from Leonard.
It is possible to live very long.
Very good.
I have a lot of things I want to do, and it was dissolution of all my things. First become long live, and then do all the things I want to do. And mostly do it all together.
Right.
And I'm kind of lying in my bed, looking at the big screen. That's explanation for what you see on the screen. It's quite lazy, I see. I feel quite lazy also. Yeah, that was the most important thing I learned from Leonard. It's possible to live long, and he told us, showed us how to do that. And I notice it in my life that it works. I'm not getting younger, but I'm very healthy. And it wasn't always that way. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to finish by playing the interview with Jim, because it's a lovely tribute to Leonard as well. We could talk forever, and we will. So let me just tell you. So the next program will be at 1 o'clock in German. So if any of you speak German, we have Lamia Hariri and Agatha Janik with me, and we talk about physical immortality in German at 1 o'clock German time. At 4 o'clock, Peace and Sarah, it's all German time, so you have to calculate your times where you are. So at 4 o'clock German time, Sarah and Peace will interview another group of people, and there's some very exciting guests as well, like we have here now. And then at 6 p.m. German time or Central European time, Irene will host a Spanish meeting with Mavi Carreras and Silke Modersohn and Armando, and so that, and then at 8 p.m. Central European time, we will have Dan Brule as well as the McNabs and some other people. So forgive me if I don't have the names all right here. So we do have a lot of space for more. So
which ones are in English?
The one at 4 p.m. my time and the one at 8 p.m. my time. So if you want to join in again, I think everybody would love to have you there as well. Anybody is welcome.
I've got some interesting stories to tell, but yeah, no, it's nice to connect with. I'll tell you, I've been wanting to connect with people for a long time, and
wonderful.
It's great.
Wonderful.
It just kind of popped up in my face, and I'm glad it did. You know,
James, it's 11 o'clock New York time for the next session.
There's a 6-hour gap. So
six hours to the East Coast and 9 hours to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, it would be 4 and 6 over in your time. Did you say 4 and 8?
Yes.
You said 4 and 8.
Six hours less for the East Coast.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you. I will put on this screen share, and I'm pretty dinosaur in this technical matters, but I did it before. So
well, there's a chat. There's a little chat button.
Yeah, no, I won't lose the chat, but I will. You won't see me because I have to share my screen.
Right. Or you want to share your screen? Okay.
Yeah, because Jim made the interview, and I'm going to share that with you. Can you see it?
I can see a picture.
Okay, I started. Oh, sorry, I start in the beginning. Can you hear it and see it?
Yes.
Thank you.
How long ago was that? Wow.
Can you hear the sound as well?
No.
No sound?
No sound.
Okay, 1 second. I have to. Come back here. But it says it's free.
There he is.
There you go.
My gratitude to Leonard Orr and the teachings of physical immortality. Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar. Leonard Orr, who died the first week of September 2019, was my quotes, older brother. As such, he for me was a pioneer in opening the doors of consciousness, an innovator who questioned controlling or repressive standards, and a teacher who attracted thousands of students in search of inner empowerment. He was also an individualist who eschewed many social standards, an iconoclast who would shake up expectations of spiritual leadership with statements such as, "I made my first $1 million selling air," and a rebel who delighted in challenging time-encrusted beliefs with concepts such as physical immortality. My introduction to Leonard came through my Tai Chi teacher, Fred Lehrman, in 1976, who later became one of the first certified rebirthers. Joan, my wife, and I had been on our spiritual path for several years, living in an urban spiritual community, doing monthly enlightenment intensives and learning from many qualified teachers, some of whom were great proponents of healing breathing. So when Fred, who was commuting from New York to teach Tai Chi in Milwaukee, where we lived, said he had learned rebirthing from Leonard Orr and recommended we bring rebirthing to our community, it was perfectly ordained timing. Joan and I had just purchased our first house, a 100-year-old 3-story Dutch colonial, which had more rooms than we knew what to do with. So we justified it in our minds by inviting others to live there and dedicating space to traveling gurus who might come to town. The 3rd floor became the first rebirthing center in our city. Diane Hinterman, Marcia Harper were the first rebirthers to come and do sessions there. They blew the roof off with sessions that defied any logical explanations. For example, I came home one day to a pungent odor in the house and was told that during a rebirthing session with a woman earlier that day, almost everyone attending her nearly passed out while she was breathing and releasing a peculiar smell. She later informed the rebirthers that during her actual birth, a bottle of chloroform was dropped and broke in the delivery room, and almost all the medical staff was overcome with the fumes, a cellular birth trauma release. It was my own breathing, however, that convinced me I wanted to be a trained rebirther as soon as possible. That happened before I knew it. During my regular Monday night bioenergetics class, an attendee fell to the floor and started hyperventilating. I had to either stop her or become an instant rebirther and lead her through a session. After that, we put our 2 children on a plane and went off to do our first rebirthing training in New Orleans during Mardi Gras with Leonard Orr. He was welcoming to the children, being there as a child in him was always open to children. It was a magical time and set me on a mission to get as much training as I could in becoming a certified rebirther. That happened within 2 years at the Rebirthing Jubilee in Sun Valley, Idaho, a convention of breathers from around the world. At that time, the certification process involved standing up in front of every person in the room and stating that you were a certified rebirther. If one person objected, you were done for the year. It also required an interview with the current certified rebirthers, each of whom had to give their signature to you. There were 9 certified at the time, and Sandra Ray was the last to give her approval to me at the induction ceremony concluding the Jubilee. A perfect test for me, because as Leonard taught, in spite of this process, we can only truly certify ourselves. I had to certify that I was a rebirther in my own heart, regardless of public approval before I got outside validation. I was the 12th certified rebirther. This certification process ended the next year as a number of us rebelled, as good students should, because it was at a point where it was slowing down the worldwide spread of the breathing movement. I then became the co-director of Leonard's Theta International and organized the seminar circuit for one-year seminar teachers in cities across the United States and Canada. This was Leonard's community building organization, which fostered local organizers for twice-a-month seminars and rebirthings. Community building is still a major focus for me and has gotten renewed vigor in the next chapter of my life. Meanwhile, back in our third floor rebirthing room, where Diane and Fred were in town doing seminars and sessions, Fred suddenly went to sleep, and a strange man appeared to Diane and told her to come to India. This must have been one of those interventions that were very compelling, because she did. Upon disembarking in India, she was met by someone who bade her to come with him up into the foothills of the Himalayas. After some travel, they arrived at Babaji's ashram. Diane recognized him instantly as the man who had appeared to her. Subsequently, a series of continuously mind-blowing occurrences happened for Diane, who then persuaded Leonard to come to Harakan, where Babaji's ashram is. Now, the most frequent circumstances for those coming to the ashram was that Babaji would allow visitors to stay a few days and then send them home to live their life, hopefully with some transformation of spirit. As it turned out, he allowed Diane to stay 7 months. Many stories came back from her to me that were transformative in my life. The presence of Babaji grew stronger for me from then on. He is still a major teacher and influence in my life. He was recognized by Leonard and Sandra as major teachers in their lives and a central inspiration in the breathwork movement. Leonard's devotion to the teachings and inspiration of Babaji continued throughout his life. Babaji teaches with, quotes, Leela, divine play. Diane recounted that whatever she was thinking, Babaji seemed to know. One day, she was questioning the validity of rebirthing in her mind when she looked up and saw Babaji laying on the ground doing rebirthing breathing. She then had the thought that rebirthing was obviously the answer to everything, upon which Babaji immediately proceeded to stop breathing completely for a long time and then wink and smile at her. There. Now you've gotten the teaching, and you'll interpret it as you will. Leonard continued his tireless work in spreading the healing agency and spiritual transformations of the spirit of breath throughout the world. He has inspired countless others to take up their calling to be pioneers in their own communities. See his writings on what makes democracy work. He has passed the torch of leadership on to so many who have in turn passed it on to others. I know, because that is how it has come to continue to work for me. A grassroots revolution of empowerment rather than an empire-building model of top-down leadership. This is Leonard's legacy for us all, a legacy for which I am eternally grateful and carry with every conscious breath I breathe. Om Namah Shivaya. A note on the concept of physical immortality, which I believe is often misunderstood. Leonard had a passion for the concept and spent a good deal of time finding people who were 300 plus years old. It's not about who can live the longest. It's about living consciously, such that the beliefs about death are not running your life. It's experiencing the immortal nature of who you are essentially, such that your body is an extension of that consciousness, and its destiny follows from that, not outside sources like illness, family belief systems, accidents, or planned obsolescence. Babaji himself left his body consciously as part of his Leela. Fully integrating physical immortality can lead to your life becoming more Leela and less struggle. breathwork and physical immortality. The natural conclusion to gaining mastery with our breath is that of harmony in body, mind, and spirit. This means that our body perfectly reflects the instructions of our spirit, and that we are mentally conscious of what instructions we are giving. Breathwork is the process of creating harmony and increasing consciousness. Body mastery is not a goal reserved for a few yogis living in the caves of the Himalayas or saints with special powers removed from earthly domain. It is the direct and immediate goal of each one of us who has a body on this planet. Mastery is the ability to use our body directly, effectively, and pleasurably in achieving our purpose on earth. Unless we open our awareness to how we are already accomplishing this goal, we will hold ourselves back in ignorance and fear. Our bodies are miracles of life and will continue to be until we give it or accept the instructions to die. That is, radically change our forms. It's only us who can give or acquiesce to these instructions to our bodies. We are in the process of becoming more conscious of how we do this, as well as how we can do something different. With each breath I take, I put energy into whatever my beliefs are. If I cling to the beliefs of illness, aging, and death as inevitable, then this is what I create. Metaphysically, birth and death are not a tragedy because nothing spiritually is ever lost. The tragedy psychologically is that we deny that we are responsible for these changes. We then blame outside forces and try to convince others of our helplessness. I'm not claiming to be conscious of every instruction I'm giving my body. I'm certainly blinding myself from the truth. However, if I refuse to look at the results, I compound the lie if I assign responsibility for my body to the doctor, germs, or some idea of God that's not a part of my higher self. In so doing, I play victim and perpetuate the original sin, denial of my divine source. Physical immortality is taking 100% responsibility for my aliveness now. It's not pretending to know everything consciously now, but it is certainly not pretending to be ignorant of my higher self. It's affirming the wisdom of my higher self, coming into harmony with it, and dedicating each moment of my existence to a more fully consciously embracing my total being. When I say that I am physically immortal, I am telling my highest truth. This leads to greater awareness and mastery. It affirms my essential being. When I say that I and everyone must die, I'm telling the truth of a limited version of being. This, quotes, limited truth also produces results in accordance with its commands. That is, more illusion of limited reality in which I and others are victimized and helpless. Physical immortality does not mean clinging on to my present physical form as long as possible because I'm afraid of change. This is no better than killing myself because I'm afraid of being here. Our goal is not seeing who can hang on to their body the longest, but rather how we can increase our divine awareness of every change we make. As a physical immortalist, I am dedicated to releasing fear of every aspect of my existence. I may choose to change my physical form in a way that looks like disease and involuntary death to others, and perhaps even to parts of myself. My highest vision and faith, however, is always to embrace responsibility for any choices which increase my awareness and mastery. Even as you are seeing and hearing this, your heart is opening or closing to the call to aliveness. You are in charge of this process. Your mind may bring up every objection to the concept of responsibility for total aliveness. This can be your excuse to close down. See if you are willing to listen to the simple childlike impulse beyond your mental objections that knows that you always were and will always be a presence in the here and now that is not bound by the particular forms around you. It is only in this now that you embrace total aliveness. Every time I make this choice, I reduce the energy that I've committed to my limited negative version of reality. I take the life forms around me less heavily. I see the light and the truth in all more and more. I literally transform my vision of the world. I save the world from my old disparaging view of it and help create the atmosphere in which others are invited to embrace their eternal light and life. I will always have a form and a body as long as I am a divine being. Death does not eliminate my body. It's a change of form. Both birth and death are illusions insofar as they look like something is ultimately lost or gained. As a spirit, I take on particular forms to accomplish my purpose. Life is not better or worse after I die. My purpose is the same, and so are my challenges as an evolving being. The forms may change, but the essence remains. The realization of this at first may be shocking. There's no place to go that is better or allows me to hide from my growth. Here and now is all there is. It is in the present that I can remove the layers of limited illusion to unveil the Garden of Eden in which I am already sitting. And I can greet the divine companions that are waiting for me to acknowledge them. After the initial shock of this truth diminishes, I can breathe easily because I know that there is no place to go other than here and now. What remains is simply the process of increasing my mastery and enjoyment of my divine self, to increasingly incorporate my transformations. This is the state of physical immortality, and breath work is what I do in this state.
Okay, we are over time, but it's been
That was good.
so.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Heidi, can you drop the link of that YouTube into the chat, please, so I can watch it at another time?
It is not listed yet, and but we will. I will talk with Jim. We can what we can do. I mean, so we will. I will talk with him. I mean, I could drop the link in, so you can watch it again. Let's see. Okay, I got the link, so.
Glenn, that's your email address. Oh, that's your website. Oh, great.
No, that now I just type I typed the link for Jim's meeting, and yes, so we will finish for now, And we have another 4 wonderful meetings later on today. The next one in German at 1 p.m. German time. And then we will all hopefully be together in the English version at 4 p.m. So it's 10 o'clock actually your time.
10 a.m. Okay.
10 a.m. till 12 a.m.
Great.
And Sarah Dawn and Peace Arnold will join me and do the interviewing of our other friends coming on. Thank you so much, and happy birthday, Leonard. And I thought maybe we should sing the rebirthing song to Leonard. How would you like that? Om Leonard? Anybody wants? Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard, sing it with an open and a joyful heart.
Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard,
sing it
with an open heart. Om Heike, celebrate Heike, sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om Heike, celebrate Heike, sing it with an open heart. Om Irene, celebrate Irene, sing it with an open and a joyful heart.
Om Irene,
celebrate Irene,
sing it with an open heart.
Om Jane, celebrate Glen, sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om Glen, celebrate Glen, sing it with an open heart.
Okay, I think we are not going to make it with everybody, but Om everybody, celebrate everybody, sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om everybody, celebrate everybody, sing it with an open heart. Okay, thank you very much everybody for being here. I will finish the meeting now for everybody. You can join me in German if you do understand at 1 p.m. in 1 hour and 45 minutes. And I hope to see all of you in the next meeting at 3 in English. And if you are celebrating Diwali, give my love to all the friends in India, anybody that you see, and your lovely kids and grandchildren. And greetings to the whole world, and we are alive now. Therefore, our life urges are stronger than our death urges, and as long as we strengthen our life urges and weaken our death urges, we will continue living forever in youth and health.
Ole Baba Ki.
Yay!
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. See you soon. And if you haven't done, there's some contacts. Yes, thank you. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you. See you
yes,
tomorrow.
nice to meet you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
I'm just